Hello and welcome to the next talk. So we have with us Thomas Hahn. He is Chief Expert Software at Siemens. And beyond his activities at Siemens, he's a member or a board member of various bodies, including Open Lab CERN, Steering Committee Platform Industrie 4.0, and Gaia-X, and also the Big Data Value Association. The talk today is about Gaia-X. And to exploit the full potential of their data, businesses require access to an open, transparent, and secure digital ecosystem. Within the ecosystem, data and services can be made available, assembled, and shared in an environment of trust. Thomas will present the Gaia-X platform, the next generation of data infrastructure, ensuring openness and transparency, interoperability, data portability, and data sovereignty. Thomas, please go ahead.
Yeah, many thanks for the introduction, and I switch off my video because sometimes I have a bandwidth problem. It's better that you can hear me and see my slides, and maybe you see us later in video again. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Yes, Chief Expert at Siemens, which is called in other companies a fellow. So I'm supporting people from board level regarding technology, and absolutely right. I'm also the Vice Chairperson of Gaia-X. Re-elected vice person. I will come later to this because I show you the actual news about the board composition and infrastructure and data value part, which is fit very well together. Or the president of the Big Data Value Association was going to get value out of the data to make AI. But now let's focus on Gaia-X, which is today my talk. And as introduced before, I will give you a little bit snapshot about the motivation, why and when, under some background information, because it was also one of the founder of the Gaia-X Association, how this is benefit for the providers and for the users. As you can imagine, Siemens, we're more from the user side. And then, of course, how is it set up as AISBL, as non-profit organization, but also in the international context. So, and a brief snapshot in the 15 minutes, and I try really to be in 15 minutes about what are the next steps. I wanted to give you a feeling. When you're looking at what was challenged is us, and that's the reason why I mentioned also a member of the steering committee for Platform Industry 4.0. Gaia-X was somehow a spin-off of the Platform Industry 4.0, and the discussion during this time was a little bit when you're speaking about infrastructure, roads, electricity, water, you know this, where we need also some kind of sovereignty. There was also highlight that the infrastructure for the future is for sure data. Not a surprise for us. You are in the auditorium today, in the conference today, and this was somehow the kick-off where we created roughly 1.5 years ago the Gaia-X idea. Don't ask me what the name during this time was, but then was also named Gaia-X were born, and the X you see later is also reflecting to kind of our topics. So that's, let's say, some kind of motivation, and the official startup of the organization was done last year, September, with a notarial deed in Brussels, because we want to set it in European way. Let's say, official register was beginning of the year, and now the founding board was stepping back, and we have a new elected board since Monday, but I will come later to this. What is motivating us, and you see this on the one side, and some of the topic trust or sovereignty were also mentioned before. If let's say the decentralized processing location, the lack of sovereignty where the data are stored or processed. Then, of course, sector-specific data or missing ontologies, different stack, which is also coming to the more portability and interoperability. Then, of course, to have some kind of access to this, and that we get the access from multiple stakeholders in the areas from different verticals. You know, I'm a little bit more presenting today, maybe manufacturing topic, but we have also health, finance, agriculture, and involved in the Gaia-X Association. What is driving us, and you see here, is to build up a trusted sovereign digital infrastructure for Europe, or in Europe, in Europe, because we're looking also to the outside world, out of Europe. And to be honest, we have also, beside European members, a lot of international members participating in the Gaia-X association. And what is driving us, you see, is on the left side, creation of the digital infrastructure. And as an ecosystem, I will touch later a little bit also about data spaces, an ecosystem for innovation. The increasing transparency and trust in the services, sovereignty, and this interoperability or reducing of dependencies, which I mentioned before. And you see here in the middle of the screen of the slide this X, where you have on the bluish side more the application side, but I will dig in later to this. And the red side, more the provider side, the infrastructure side, from edge to cloud topics. And in the middle, exactly this federated services, following some kind of values, following the principle which just described, and for sure, let's say some kind of software in tackling this. And now when we dig in this X, and this is exactly the X from Gaia-X, you see here again the bluish part where you see the different domains. I mentioned this before, they're not only one domain, different domains, different verticals, to create the ecosystem, to get it added value services, because at the end, from the data infrastructure, you have to create data and value out of the data, information to create impact, which you see here, for example, with big data, AI, and so on. On the right side, you see here the deployment structure, where you're looking here, this is the edge, near edge, far edge, on-premise edge, cloud system, and so on, meaning that we also get some interoperability or some kind of continuum between the solution. And exactly the clue in the middle are these so-called federated services, which are helping to fulfill the above mentioned guiding visions, strategy, what we want to fulfill with the Gaia-X initiative. And this is about identity and trust. This is a sovereign data exchange. Is a catalog where it can look like, what are the services which are available, and compliance, because at the end, describing some kind of services, you have to describe also when you fulfill the services. So that's in the nutshell what Gaia-X is. And now I will briefly dig in what are from the user side, the blue part, remember, provider side, the red part from the X, a little bit the perspective, and from the blue part, it's a little bit for my company, more our home turf. We want to have some kind of framework architecture which allow us, on the one side, to have this interoperability and sovereignty, security, and what described before from the infrastructure, but on the other side also to have some kind of exchange between the different topics. In the industrial environment, for sure, it's obvious when you're speaking about, for example, CO2 footprint, which you have to calculate, then you need some kind of link to the energy data space, or to energy data, only to give in feelings that also interoperability between the different sectors, across the sectors, is one of the topic which we are expecting Gaia-X can and should provide to make this. Only to mention this, maybe the one there's also some kind of other initiative like Gaia-X, which, for example, targeting the industrial, the manufacturing, and the mobility part in some kind of initiatives with use cases, which of course will be placed into the Gaia-X association. That's the services provided by Gaia-X, the frameworks, the architecture, fulfilling this. This, in a nutshell, when you're looking from the user perspective, when going to the infrastructure perspective, and I mentioned before also the word edge, far edge, near edge, edge continuum, cloud system. You have also this kind of interoperability portability and interoperability aspects between the different systems, where you make the storage and compute to get value out of the data. That's somehow why, let's say, we have users and providers, the blue people and the red people, let's phrase it in this way, are working together to make Gaia-X happen. What are the services? I mentioned this before. You know, the federated services, the green box, you know, is some kind to have some kind of installed mechanism. The sovereign aspect, the catalog, and the compliance topic. I mentioned this before, also in a nutshell about what is ongoing, and I have not to go in detail more. And for sure, we're providing standards. We are using open source to provide also some kind of code examples for the federated services. For sure, we will foster the community. I mentioned this before regarding users and providers community to get it done. How is Gaia-X structured? You know, on the left side, you have the AISBL, roughly 270, 280 members up to now. The association, like I mentioned before, in Brussels, but also regional hubs. You see here some kind of topic where we have a strong relation between the association, AISBL, and the hubs. And you can imagine with a regional perspective, you get the regional requests and the regional community in a clear link for this joint strategy, this joint federated services, which we fulfill with Gaia-X. And here, as promised, you have not to look at the left side. This is somehow straight ahead organization with an assembly, with a board of directors, policy rules committee to look what are the needs for policies, data spaces to handle all these data spaces, like mentioned before, energy, industry, space, mobility, and so on, and a technical committee in steering this. But when you look at the left side, this is actual the newly elected board, and which is quite nice. We have, first of all, a good composition across Europe. Think about this was originally started between Germany and France, but our wish was to make it European. And you have also from provider, from company, from big companies, from research institutes, you have also some kind of gender balance, which we think for the first General Assembly we quite could fulfill. I mentioned data spaces. You know, at the moment we have this data spacing on the road, mobility I mentioned before, industry, health, finance, energy, education, space, and all think about this. This is a cross aspect which we want to fulfill across this topic. Remember my example regarding energy and manufacturing. Only here, and this is for information reasons, a little bit where we are ramping up in the next weeks. The regional Gaia-X hubs, the dark blue one, the existing one, the light blue one, which we will establish in the next days or weeks. How does it fit in the complete picture? You know, here you have the stack for this data-driven services from the hardware. Think about my data infrastructure, the HPC stuff, the cloud edge topic, like I mentioned, infrastructure, value, and the industry-specific use cases. And we are establishing here, and this is a blue arrow on the side, some kind of exchange between this that we get the requirements coming from the use cases, really fulfilling from the value part to the data infrastructure part, the needs from the use cases, because at the end, we want to create impact. And this is only a snapshot. I apologize, I've just seen the wrong typo, wrong title, but it's somehow showing the picture how the different initiatives are working together. And when you're like just looking at the right side, you see the European initiatives how are supporting these activities. On the far right side, exactly the hubs which I mentioned before. What is the roadmap? And this is really my last slide. You know, we are making now, let's say, a lot of webinars, light blue ones for different topics you see, edge, AI, and so on. We're providing some standards, documents, a dark blue one. We are planning to have in the Q4 some kind of releases first running in alpha topic. And the gray one are more the events like a general assembly, like mentioned before, the last one, which we have had Mondays this week with the election of the new board. And here, and this is only for information reason, we published a lot of documents. And in a nutshell, and now the time is running over, in a nutshell, a very, very brief tour around what this Gaia-X is doing, how is this linked to the European ecosystem, and how this could fit together, and respecting really the use case aspect, the user aspect, but also a provider aspect. and driving this jointly in an ecosystem together, following the values which I described in my first slides. Many thanks and looking forward to some discussion.
Thank you very much, Thomas. We have a comment first, which is a Swiss Gaia-X hub would be very much welcome. And another question in the same area. So in the map you showed, the Switzerland was not in there. So where are you in terms of getting Switzerland onboarded, or what would it take to join?
Yeah, it's easy. Give me a call and we will do it. Switzerland was not in there. Don't ask me why. Maybe a mistake of the slide, because I know the discussion regarding the Swiss hub, the Swiss Gaia-X hub. Oh. And maybe this was my mistake, but just give me a call and we will make it happen.
Okay,
that's an easy answer. Because we are in this case, we want to cover it. Let's say across the region. We have, by the way, also discussion with hubs outside from Europe. So it's not a contradiction. Also, we fulfill the European, or want to drive the European values, which we have mentioned before. But just give me a call and we'll make it happen.
Okay, so anybody interested in the audience, please give him a call. And at this stage, if a company, for example, calls now and asks you, what is exactly, can you explain a little bit more concretely what the companies get at this point from being in the association?
I can do this quite easily. My company is doing this, and I can give you the rationale what we are thinking about this. First of all, we are interested also to get our voice consolidated with other regarding policy rules. Think about also the exchange of data, what have to be applied or not applied, insured or not insured. First topic. The second topic is we got, let's say, a community together to target together also this data economy, data business, data-driven businesses, new businesses, models, which we can cover via the discussion about the data spaces across verticals. And this is the second topic where we are very keen about this community, also to speak about how interoperability from data also across verticals. I mentioned before by chance the manufacturing and energy data space, which of course is a burning issue for our verticals where we are Siemens inside. This is second, and for sure, last but not least, also to influence this standard setting regarding federated services, because this is at the end where we're building on top. And now I'm thinking, I'm coming from the blue part, the upper part of the X, where we have interested with our application and use cases. And for sure, we are also a provider from edge systems that we adapt our systems. We're not a cloud provider, but we adapt our system from the edge, from the red part of the cross. That's us motivating us. We are aware we are big, we have to work a lot also to do this, and we are in a startup phase, let's phrase it with Gaia-X, but we have the right set of people, minds, and brains together to drive this forward and to overachieving really to make this data business happening with all the aspects which I explained before.
Interesting. And another question is, how does GDPR play into this? Is it even possible to do what you're proposing with customer data? Or is it only applicable if you don't have personal identifying information in your data?
When I'm speaking about manufacturing, energy maybe is a little bit, but manufacturing you have not a lot of personal data inside, but also here we have a lot to do how a data exchange can look like, not only from the perspective from interoperability and how to describe a machine which are producing the data to know what the machine is doing, but also how we can handle this data, because data is handling also some kind of knowledge, as you know, and to get some framework to this is what we have to work on it. I can tell you I was just in person, and I think the report is published regarding a B2B data sharing report from the European Roundtable from EIT, which I think is published today. I got just the final version. But again here, besides the personal data, we can think about this, how, let's say, the non-personal data, how is exchange is possible, not only from the technology-wise, also maybe from a framework which we have to address. So meaning high interest. And when I'm speaking as Healthineers, Siemens Healthineers, for sure they have also the other way regarding this personal data topic where we have to look at it, how we're doing this, especially in this situation where we are at the moment inside also other domains, for example, mobility, producing a flight ticket need also to access to get some personal data if the person is vaccinated or not, only to make a simple example. Also it's not only GDPR, not only personal data, but also from framework. And that's the reason why the importance is also with this policy rule document, that we have a joint voice via our community to address this in an adequate way.
Okay, thank you very much. So you can reach Thomas in the chat or via the provided contact information.
Yes,
thank you very much, Thomas.
And I will take care for the Gaia-X hub in Switzerland for sure.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye-bye.